Hey guys, how's your fandom treating you? Welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for possibly our shortest comic run talk, which will be about Chip Zdarsky's X-Men Fantastic Four. So, it's been a while since we've talked about the X-Men, possibly even longer since the Fantastic Four, but this one's pretty straightforward. It's actually a pretty fun book to read, where I think the only problem with it was the delays. And what this story is about in my mind is it's setting the stage for what I think we all know is coming in terms of the X-Men. So, for those of you that don't know, earlier this year, Jonathan Hickman's X-Men run started, and he started with House of X and Powers of 10. And really all that is that really all we need to know going in for this book is that the X-Men have pretty much created their own island, their own nation. You know, Charles is Professor X is teamed up with Magneto, Apocalypse, Mystique, pretty much every mutant that's ever mutant. And they've made their own nation, and there's been some weird back and forth between as to how the world responds to it, or as I call it, all of a sudden, people hate mutants again. That's sort of it. In my opinion, the X-Men don't make sense in the context of the Marvel Universe. But whatever. So, there's been a bit of upheaval in the superhero community as well as just the world in general when it comes to Krakoa as a nation. Namely, one of the things with the superhero community is that all mutants have been granted diplomatic immunity. In exchange for this immunity, though, Krakoa has been giving, life-extending medicines and drugs to those nations. And that's really all we need to know going in. So now, into this story here, written by Chip Zdarsky, who's did really great work, and still doing great work, on Daredevil, which we need to talk about at some point. Here, he's decided to paint the story, sort of the discussion, that answers the question I've had, is what's going to happen, and you sort of get the idea, there's going to be a war. There's going to be a war. But that's not what the story is really trying to say. At least I don't think so. So the premise here is Krakoa wants to get its Omega level mutants. And Omega level mutants are those top tier, really busted mutants that really, depending on how you look at it, kind of make you wonder why S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't have measures for them. Oh, what's with my eye all of a sudden? And one of those Omega level mutants is Franklin Richards, the son of Sue Storm and Reed Richards. And so they need, let's get Franklin down here. They also found out that his powers have started to fade. That's a problem. So they decided to send Kitty Pryde, a friend of Franklin from a story way back when Kitty Pryde when the X-Men had to use Dr. Doom to help fix Kitty's powers. And what ensues here is sort of this weird story where the X-Men go to the Fantastic Four and say, your son needs to come with us, where he belongs. It's sort of a weird moment where the X-Men, you'd almost think they feel out of character. But if you read some of the new X-Men stuff, even before Hickman, this is sort of in character with them. Whether it be something like Death of X, or X-Men Red, or X-Men Blue, or even Gold to an extent. They've sort of felt a bit like they're not heroes anymore. And of course, when you go to someone and say, hey, your child belongs with us, with his own people, where he'll be safe, it's not going to work over well. Sue Storm loves her children, loves them fiercely, like most mothers would. But then to go and tell her that, she's not qualified, or is like her child wouldn't be safe with her, is a problem. Granted, Franklin was sent to hell at one point by Dr. Doom, but you're never ready for that. You're never ready for that. And on Franklin's end, he doesn't really get much time to talk about how he feels about it. He's frustrated on one end because his powers have been fading. And his dad can't seem to be able to fix it, or in his mind doesn't want to fix it. Kitty Pryde is not only a friend, but she's really hot, and he's a teenage boy. And both the X-Men and his parents seem to already make the decision for him. Kitty Pryde, on the other hand, has said, whatever Franklin wants to do, I'll support it. If he wants to go to Krakoa, I'll back him up. If he wants to stay, I'll back him up. And what's really weird here is that outside of that, these really extreme positions. Franklin has to stay, Franklin has to go. And when he decides, when he gets too much for him and he makes a run for the portal to Krakoa, these very intense, well, not really intense, but these very highly secure portals that only let mutants through, Reed brings up a good point to Professor X. Like, in just a few years' time, Franklin will be a legal adult. He can do whatever he wants. He can visit Krakoa, he can even stay, but you seem to want him now. And that implies to Reed that there's an agenda going on. There's something else that he's not talking about. And Charles doesn't give an answer to that. But when Franklin tries to go through the portal, he can't go through. Reed has used technology. He's created a device that dampens his mutant gene, so the portal won't recognize him, and that leads to a huge falling out because everyone agrees Reed messed up. So then when the story really starts, when Franklin and Valeria sneak off onto Kitty Pryde's ship, because what Kitty Pryde does is she goes around and she tries to free mutants that are being held against their will. And that leads to the meeting the man, the myth, the legend, one of the best reasons to ever read a Fantastic Four comic, Dr. Doom, who, he's kept an ear to the ground. He knows about Franklin's, fading powers. He wants to fix it for two reasons that he'll talk about. He does not like seeing people not live up to their full potential, and he wants to rub his failure in Reed's face, because he's going to do what Reed can't do. Even more, he's going to fix Reed's son. So that's really where the story, in my opinion, sort of kicks up, or even sort of stops a bit, because the questions being had about where the X-Men stand on this, are they still heroes? Are they still good guys? Where does Franklin belong? That sort of falls apart, but it sort of picks itself up later. Doom also is the one that sort of brings to light the idea that something big is coming. He talks about Franklin's powers when he's examining him, that he believes that mutants and metahumans, the energy needed for their powers, it doesn't come from the body in the same sense that certain things would. It comes from, there are specific cells in the body that draw power from another dimension. And these particles he calls Von Doom particles, and he wants access to that dimension so we can use those particles for Latveria. This is similar to him using Galactus to power Latveria, which was hilarious, and another nail in the Galactus' important coffin, because he kind of doesn't matter anymore. After that, Doom sort of takes over the story, and that's sort of a problem, because he sort of forces both sides to focus on something else, which is Doom. And every story with Doom, it's hard to tell if he's the good guy or the bad guy sometimes. Doom is not a 100% good person. If anyone tells you that, they have been paying attention. But Doom usually has noble intentions. He just doesn't care what he has to do to get to them. Usually what he does for Latveria. In his mind, getting greater power is better to protect Latveria, to further Latveria's interests, and he's a very good ruler in Latveria. But the question now is, there are mutants on his island that we're not sure if they're held against their will or not. We know, going by this story here, by these mutants, they're one part afraid and one part grateful to Doom. So they tried to run, they were caught. They said it was a mistake, but they seemed kind of afraid, but at the same time, they know that they're safe with Doom. And as a matter of fact, the only time the story really comes to getting back to the point of what's been going on with Krakoa is with Doom and Professor X. Professor X brings up that Latveria has not accepted Krakoa's offer of diplomatic immunity in exchange for the life-altering drugs. And Doom says, yeah, I don't care. He says, make no mistake, I totally acknowledge Krakoa, its right to exist. I acknowledge mutants' right to exist, but I do not agree with this idea of you offering all mutants diplomatic immunity, because while he doesn't respect diplomats, he understands what their role is. Diplomats represent the best of an underrepresented populace. What Charles has done is said, hey, every mutant, regardless of who they are or what their skill set is, get diplomatic immunity. Diplomats represent the country. So who represents Krakoa? Apparently every mutant represents Krakoa. Now the problem with that is not only are plenty of these mutants incredibly young, none of them have any skill with diplomacy or even dealing with other people. And Doom finds this concept alone insulting. That these people are somehow special and garnering of special privileges because they have special things protruding from their fingers, or they can lift things with their mind because they're born with it, not because they've earned it. Doom finds this insulting, he finds Charles insulting. And that was a good point. And again, Charles has nothing to say about that. So the way this story ends, it's a really interesting clash between the X-Men and Fantastic Four and Doom, and I don't really want to go into how that ends. I don't think it's necessary, but let's talk about the fallout. So the fallout definitely implies war is coming. So at the end of it all, Charles and Magneto, I don't know why I can call Professor X Charles, but I can't call Magneto Eric. I don't know. They visit Reed, and they find the device that he used to block out Franklin's powers. And they destroy it because it turns out this power can also erase the mutant gene. Potentially. Reed says that was sort of an accidental occurrence. He would never use it for that. Charles says it doesn't matter. He erases Reed's memory of making it, the knowledge to make it. And he said that in another time, earlier, he would have erased this meeting. Reed would never know what happened. But he said, no, I want you to remember what I did. And I want you to know that it's a new world and you can't keep doing whatever you want anymore. Again, it's kind of hypocritical for them to take this position, but whatever. And you sort of get the feeling then that war really is coming between Krakoa, between the mutants and the rest of the world. And where the Fantastic Four will be on this, where Doom will be on this, where any of the X-Men or any of the superhero community will fall on this, only time will tell. Overall, X-Men and Fantastic Four is a fun 4-issue story. I think what really sort of killed the momentum for me was, again, the gaps. It sort of made me forget about the book from time to time. This is one of a couple books that have sort of been ruined by, well, not even ruined, but just sort of changed by the delays. Doomsday Clock last year was affected by this. But those delays were not caused by COVID. They were just sort of caused by, I'm guessing, stuff behind the scenes. Strange Academy, I think, is affected by this. It just sort of, it's harder to remember that these books are out there sometimes. But overall, this was fun. I felt everyone's decisions were in character. It's a great book to look at. I felt maybe another issue could have been used to flesh out those ideas, because there's sort of this understanding. Sue brings it up that the X-Men don't feel like heroes anymore. They used to be our friends, now they don't quite feel like it. And there's a scene with Emma Frost when she arrives on Doom's Island, and she points out she can't read anyone's thoughts. And she says they must be hiding something. And to me, it's something I've never liked telepaths. Like at all. I like them I like the characters, but telepathy, the ability to read someone's mind, to enter someone's mind without consent, to make people think things or forget things, that's a frightening power in my mind. And Emma Frost, Jean Grey, Professor X, Quentin Quire, they've all sort of understood there's a certain responsibility they have to it. But this scene there, to me, said there's a problem again with telepathy, because Emma Frost, maybe it's just in a situation where she thinks she should have the right to read someone's mind. And maybe it's because I also recently read an Emma Frost comic, and Emma's a piece of work. Emma's a piece of work. So anyway, with that in mind, brings me close here. What do you guys think of it? So anyway, guys, what do you think about this? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What do you think is going to come next from the X-Men and Krakoa as a whole? So anyway, with that in mind, we'll bring this video to close. So anyway, with that in mind, let's bring this video to close here. If you did the bug thing, take a video to like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section. Did you like this book? I'm sort of neutral on it. I like the spirit of it, but not really the plan. I felt like there was some missed opportunities. Well, leave your thoughts down in the comment section. I'll catch you all later. This is the Bug Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.